it is a job and it is getting stuff done. But it's not, oh my goodness, the big author's coming in, clear the conference room, get the fancy Evian water. And I think a lot of people expect that kind of, that getting a publishing deal, publishing a book is just kind of a celebration of all their achievements. But really it's like when a different type of work begins, and that work is making sure that people hear about the book. But again, to like go back to what I said, if you have put in the work and you believe in your book, then you want people to hear about it. You want people to read it. And so putting in the time to market is actually like a great opportunity to,
Right. But I think that the problem is that for a lot of people, it's not, we have given like, the average first novel takes 7 to 9 years before, from when you first start writing it to when it appears on, on shelf, if it appears on shelf. So that's a huge investment of time. And I'm sure that most writers would quite happily invest more time, but it's just that, what do you do? Like, how do you start? Like, what is marketing? What can you do for yourself? And you hear this word all the time about the author's platform. And I ask very frequently in my classes, who here knows what the author's platform is? And everyone's like, I think it's like if I get a TikTok account or whatever. So you tell us, what is a platform? How do we build it? Why should we be building it early?
Yeah, well, I mean, one reason is because if you're shopping your manuscript around to publishers or even agents, the larger reach you have online, that translates potentially to sales. So you may have better luck getting an agent or getting a publishing contract, or getting a bigger advance, depending on how many people you're connected to. So most people, when they think about a platform, they think about, social media, your website. Basically, it's where you connect with your people. So that may be different for lots of, a variety of topics or things that people enjoy. Like, I hate Twitter. I think Twitter is awful. Some people love it. I don't have to be on Twitter just because Twitter is there. I think it's really important to find places that you're going to actually want to spend time. Like, I really like Instagram. It's really pretty. And I think that, you can find things really easily with hashtags. So I prefer Instagram, but maybe you like Facebook because, you like that interface, or the people that you can connect with there, or the functionality of Facebook groups to kind of nurture conversations. So do some exploring on, what kinds of apps or platforms or places where you want to connect with people resonate for you. But I realized that I didn't really explain what is a platform. Your platform is just where people can find you and you can connect with people. So like Sharon has a great website. You can learn all about Sharon. You can read, all of the things that Sharon does. She does, the retreats and writing and editing. You can connect with her newsletter and get more information from her. And then, well, there's no social media on there.
Twice a year, maybe. Yeah, okay.
Which is fine because you have this platform, which is, another connection point. So that's the other thing is like, I'm not telling Sharon like, hey, you really need to get on TikTok because you could do, hashtag red hair writer, which you could, and that's a very good hashtag. But this is a venue that works really well for you, and you're getting really high quality connections with people. So these kinds of platforms, I think, are things that you can put on your book proposal. You can put on your resume for, looking for an agent, as ways that you're connecting with potential readers.
And I think that is important, because I think that most people, like, even when you started your sentence, like it tends to always sound like the platform is a digital thing. Right? And nowadays, it is by far and away like the easiest way of doing it. It gives us this huge channel, like we have our TV station. But I do want to emphasize that it's that for those of us, and I count myself amongst them, who, I don't like Twitter. I think that it's poisonous. Facebook is where I talk about my nieces. I don't know how many people said, can I be on your Facebook? I'm like, okay, but I don't talk about books there. I talk about my nieces, it's not the same thing. So it's, but I feel like I have a platform, but it's a very different platform because it's completely not built on social media. I very, very badly send a couple of newsletters a year, but my platform is based on speaking, right? It's like, it's something I really enjoy doing. So the whole, and I recently submitted a novel, and so the bottom of it is, well, I've spoken to I've spoken at this at this museum and this museum and this museum and these universities and these conferences, and so it's totally based on speaking. But depending on what you're writing, that can work for you very well too. And I just want to, I get a lot of resistance from people who say, well, I don't want to build a platform because I don't want to spend half my life on social media. And if you're creative, you don't have to. You can build this some other way, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And speaking is a really good way to do that. I think, groups like this, book clubs, any kind of, I had in the nonfiction space, you've got authors who do speaking engagements at companies. So any kind of speaking experience that you have can translate into bulk sales. So the publicity person or the marketing and publicity person is going to try to book you for speaking events because you have precedent of doing that. And then they're going to try to get whoever's hosting you to buy a copy of the book for every person attending. And those sales do really well. Like if you do a 60-person event, that's 60 books, which is not nothing. So speaking is definitely a really good way to kind of boost your platform and your resume. I think also a writers group or other groups of people who are trying to support each other like this. Going back to when we were talking about influencer marketing, potentially, me and Sharon, sharing about each other's projects, those sorts of connections can be really valuable. And those people can, have you come to their book group, or they may have a connection they can connect you with. So I think the other thing about platform is that, at least in my perspective, I really, really think it needs to be authentic. Like a lot of people are like, okay, I guess I have to get 10,000 followers. Let me just start posting things that are trending and using hashtags to find, people that will follow me. And then I'll have 10,000 followers and then I will get a book deal or, whatever idea you have. Engagement, so people actually commenting, responding, and I'm going back to social media now. Actually engaging with your posts is a much bigger factor. There was just a really good Times article about how, social media followers for publishers is not a good indicator of book success. So knowing that you have an engaged platform community, and even if it's smaller. So even if you are like, okay, I want to engage with people, I'm going to start a newsletter and I have a couple hundred people on the newsletter. That's great. Especially, if you have a 30% open rate or something like that, I imagine, Sharon, your open rates are really good because, well, you send really good stuff and all these
so infrequently
very interested. Well, I'm looking at people are taking notes. So I think that this group is very interested and very engaged. So that's another really big factor. It's not all about size, but it's also about sustainability. People can kind of smell inauthenticity. So if you kind of bust out and you're like, all right, my goal is to get an agent by the end of the year. So I really need to build a platform and get a lot of people talking about me and talking about the topic of my book. That will probably not go very well. But if you kind of connect to what feels right for you, what feels right for the topic, what is serving you as you go through that process, that platform may grow more slowly, but it's going to last longer and it's going to yield deeper results rather than just oh, cool, 10,000 people opened this email and one person bought my book.
Right. And I think that a good tip to slide in here is that a lot of people, the title of this this talk was why you should start before you finish your book. A lot of people don't kind of realize that their platform might be building even as they're writing the book, you know, and they might not be paying enough attention. So, I mean, as an example, if you're doing research and you start, you know, you go down to your local library to do it, and you start talking to librarians, and like there are a few local librarians who are interested in what you're doing, it's very easy to just go, oh, well, that was a nice day in the library, and then these three records. But if you kind of like have the mindset from the beginning that, oh, I'm supposed to be working on this platform thing, and you ask them for their business cards, and you send them a thank you note for helping you with your research, and all of a sudden you have these librarians who, you know, when I was saying earlier that I like to speak, like a lot of my speaking engagements come from these people who would be really easy not to notice, but because you're appreciative of what they're doing, you know, they'll go, oh, well, do you want to come speak at my library, or do you want to, you know, and then you speak at the library and someone in the audience says, well, I'm actually a lecturer over at UW, would you want to come speak at UW? And this whole thing like has this habit of just growing. But you have to pay attention when it's small, when it's early on, right?
Yeah.
Or else you kind of find yourself, you ready to submit the book, you want to say something at the bottom of your query letter, and you're like, oh, I should have stayed in touch with all those people, you know? So.
It's like, you know, that's such a good point, especially like the librarians or like historical society, you know, if you're doing that kind of research. So one thing that I do that I'm really bad at keeping up on is like at my job, I keep a running document of like projects that I've worked on and things that I'm investing time in for my, you know, quarterly review, so that I can actually remember what I did by the time I get there and be like, yes, I executed on this. So I think that's a great idea to, you know, make those connections, but also just start a document, start a spreadsheet or a Google sheet, like whatever is your preference, and just write down all that stuff, because that is like gold for later, and you will forget it, especially like Sharon said, like if your first novel takes 7 to 9 years, like that is a really long time. But those people are going to remember you, because it's, again, really exciting that someone is writing a book and everybody wants to get in on that and celebrate that with you. So yeah, those kinds of things. And then yeah, historical societies, you can do a speaking event there. If it's a museum, they can order books for the museum gift shop and do an event. Like there's just so many things. If you, like Sharon said, you know, look for the small things. And then if you're heading in with, I just keep like putting my hand on my heart, like if you're heading in with a spirit of curiosity, you will invite those things to you and just be open to them.
Mm-hmm.